Hi, it's Nancy welcoming you to Garden Scroll. My house is beginning to get the excessive clutter, but don't the houseplants look good? I brought them in. Of course, I watered them off first. I sprayed them for insecticide. I cut off all the pieces that were just brown from the summer's heat, and they look good. They just look good. But if you know anything about my experience with houseplants, they may not look good very long, but I'm hoping they will. Oh, they look so good right now. I'm so proud of how they're doing. And they were actually looking so badly outside that I didn't think about them looking as good inside as they do, but they actually do. After I trimmed them up and gave them a little extra special care, they're looking good to be brought in. Even this little corn Dracaena, it totally practically died out, and then it put on, if you can tell, this is not actually the stalk, but it's put on a little shoot there on that original stalk and put up a new little plant that looks healthy and wonderful, and I love it. I need to do some more cleaning on my little cactus, my little crown of thorns, but even it is looking wonderful, and this is looking great. This is my copper plant. Oh, and you can see I have not finished my rigging up yet of my plant lights, but I will get on that when I get them where I want them, and then I'll try to camouflage them with some silk ivy, and hopefully it won't look too bad either. But doesn't this copper plant look great? And then down below it, just look at that full array of creeping wandering Jew. It looks so good there. It filled out so good and looked good in the garden, and now it's looking good as a house plant. And I'm trying the light from above this time on my aloe vera. Hopefully I'll have better luck with it than I did last year, although I can see that one little panicle is already drooped. It was drooping outside, and it's really drooping once I moved it inside. But I'm going to give them every chance that I can to live, and my little rubber plant and ponytail plant are looking good. My little airplane plant looks good. When I brought this one in, it promptly died on me last year, so I think this is a new plant. I'm not sure. I might have got a piece of it to live. I think it's a new plant if I remember right. And then I know that this little Crossandra is a new plant. My other one died. It barely made it through the winter, and when I put it outside, it was not able to pick up its health and go. But that's the way it goes sometimes. And then, oh, you know how I love these Rex Begonias, how I'm hoping that they will do well. And I did also clip off most of all the scraggly dead parts. You can tell this one has a little hole in it right there, but I left it on there, and there's a lot of it is just looking so good now. It looks better smaller, and with all the dead parts clipped off, it looks really good. And then I'm going to move this little plant just so you can see what's behind it there. And the same goes for this little begonia too. It was looking so bedraggled, but I knew it was beautiful down under there. I could tell it was. And just this color in a plant, in a begonia, just seems wonderful to me. And I thought I got all the bad parts, but right there's one. And I've read to go ahead and clip them way down at the stem. Don't try to just clip that off because the stem won't live anyway. So, but doesn't it look good? It looks like it has a good healthy chance, but you know they've looked like that before, and I've killed them. But oh, I'm praying and hoping that I'll learn how to help them to survive and to just continue on to look gorgeous and take back out and thrive in the summer garden next year. And then here beside it is this beautiful Rex begonia too, and I forget the names of them, and I don't really know. There's a little tag in this one, but I don't know if it has the actual name on it or if it just says a Rex begonia. And there's another little piece right there that needs to go ahead and come off of there. I'm going to take that off right now. And this one too. So I got those off, but let's see if I can get to this so I can show you if it tells what kind it is. No, it doesn't. It just says it's a Rex begonia, which I did know that. So, but anyway, it's a gorgeous one, that's for sure. I love it. What is this? That does not look very good. I'm going to clip that one off too, and hopefully that'll help them to do better. But isn't that a beautiful leaf? Just beautiful, beautiful foliage on this plant. And right behind it there is one of the waffle plants. This is called the white waffle. So far it's done well since I brought it in. And then here beside it, my little aloe vera that my sister Rose gave to me is looking good. And this little plant, which is, I believe this to be a Mexican hen and chickens, but I'm not sure. It's a pretty little succulent plant, and I figured I brought it to the garden to die. I did know it did have some life in it this spring, so I went ahead and put it down in with some of my other succulents, and it not only took off and went, it put on a little one, a little pup, or whatever they're called. I know the aloe vera babies are called pups or new ones, but this one just came right out beside it, and it's looking great right now if I can only keep it looking great. And I am trying, of course, the clay pots because they help them to drain better. And I think that was my problem with my well, with this little plant, and maybe several of my other little plants, but I think they were just staying too wet. Then I have two more begonias that were kind of hidden this summer out in the garden, and they're kind of getting to fan out and look beautiful here. And let me move this one out of the way so I can show you this other one, which is also a very pretty plant. So I'm hoping they will do great. And I know that may not be the case, but I'm still going to hope it is. And then down here below, I did go ahead and bring in the artillery fern. And this is another waffle plant. This is called a purple waffle, and it has needed watering twice since I brought it in, which has only been a few days, less than a week. So I may need to change its little pot, or I may just need to be sure and water it more often. And then there's one more little plant over here on the side, and it is a gold. No, this is not called a golden. My golden died, and it was another one that I just got I let it get too damp and stay too damp too long, and I'm not seeing the little tag on this one, but it has been a one to stay, and I know you can't see that well, so I'm going to take it out a little bit so you can, but it has done well for me. It lasted through last winter and did great, so I'm hoping it will do that again. So that is basically all that I have in, and it is most of the plants that I will bring in. There are a few more that I will go ahead and bring in, but not very many. I've got that job done, and I feel good about it. Even though now it means I have to take care of houseplants and outside plants, but that's part of it. This morning my neighbor said he was moving, and if I wanted I could have these trellises, so my husband and I went down and got these, and I'm hoping to find a spot for them in my garden. Yesterday we did a little shopping, and I found these little plant supports, and this was all out in the pathway, and it still is right down here, but I think I may wait on this and just clip it off, and then take the little cuttings that I clip off and put in another spot. But we'll see if I have time and get around to doing all of that. But it still looks fine actually in the garden. I should know that it will by now, because every time I think it's going to look so bare when I get the houseplants out, and it rarely looks bare, although I usually do have to rearrange things so that it won't look bare in some spots and then over full in others. And this is that pretty little chocolate plant with its pretty little white tufts on it. I love this, and it was down on the sidewalk here, and so I moved it and kind of tied it up here where it can get a chance to shine. Look back here at this Hibiscus plant, the coral bells. It has put on, you can tell it has new little leaves, new growth for the fall. Mums are still beginning to bloom in lots of places in the garden, and I actually got another one. I said I don't want any mums today because I have plenty mums. And then of course I saw this one, and this one, even though I have lots of yellow mums, just look at this beautiful mum. It has a deep dark yellow center and just pale yellow outer petals. And then just when you put it together in that little bunch that it grows in, it just looks gorgeous, and I love it. I couldn't resist. I'm pretty sure it's a perennial. Most mums are, although some of them, like the florist mums, don't always come back. But I'm hoping that this one will come back each year, and I hope to find a pretty spot for this in my garden. So it does look a little bare over here where I took out my ponytail plant and the rubber plant, but from the front side it doesn't look all that bare. There's plenty there from the front side that you can't really tell that much that it's bare in the back behind it. And then I see there's another little plant that I haven't gotten yet, but I will want to bring this little plant inside. My polka dot plants are looking gorgeous, but I probably won't try to save them. And this little spot looks a little bit bare. This is where I had my beautiful foxtail fern, and I went ahead and put the pretty purple heart here, and you know I trimmed all the bad spots off of this once, and it needs it again. Oklahoma summers are just so hard on plants, but from what I've seen on my Instagram, most places summer can get pretty rough on the plants and on the gardeners. So there's a little bit of a empty slot here, but I think it still looks fairly well. Sometimes things even look better when I do move them around, and it gives me room to put some of the other things. Like I told you, this one, this pretty purple heart, was just hidden where I could find a shade for it, and now it's taken the place of the foxtail fern, and it looks pretty there. This is a cosmos that I just had sitting on the ground, and now it's sitting up where the schefflera was, or close to that area, and so it's fine. I kind of knew it would be, and yet I also didn't know. And I think, oh my goodness, no, I didn't. I thought I saw a cucumber beetle on this plant, on this bloom, but I have seen 2 of them in the garden now, so I know that I will have to spray for those again, especially before the blooms on the mum get very big. I definitely want to have those protected. Also, I took out my this little ivy, Swedish ivy, variegated Swedish ivy. I took it out, but I put a couple, or 3 I think, of the little pieces that fell off of it back in here, and I'll show you when we get around to the back where I put the main part of it. And this little coleus had to be moved when I took my bougainvillea inside. This was in the same pot with it, so I moved it. And it looked a little bit wilty for one day, and it's already looking okay now. So I think it made the move pretty well. This little pot back here was just simply on the ground. And that's where I had my Rex Begonia, so I set this one up there to fill in that empty spot there, and she's looking good there, I think. If I can get her in focus for you, which looks like I'm not getting it, but try one more time and see what I get. I think it's still blurry, but anyway, it does look better than just an empty spot. And then this little pot, this is where I had the bougainvillea pot. And so now I just put this little pot with coleus and some zinnias in there, and it filled up the area pretty well too. So a little moving around and a lot of moving around to bring them inside, but good to have that job done. And of course there's many more jobs to do, like digging the caladiums and later on the dahlias, and just lots of jobs to still be done. Speaking of dahlias, I did have this little one to bloom. This is one little plant that I did not take in yet, but I will, even though it's bare except for this one little sprig, and there's a tiny bit of green right here, but I don't know if it has much of a chance, but I'll definitely have to bring it in. And then later on I'll bring this in, my plumeria, and these pots, these 3 pots right here actually have bulbs in them, so I'll bring those in because the bulbs are not hardy that are in these pots. My husband and I both usually think the fall is when the garden is the prettiest, but actually, I mean, there are some beautiful fall flowers for sure, but there's lots of beautiful summer flowers too. The thing is, the weather is so, it's just practically torture to be out in that heat, and it's just terrible to be out in it, even just to take care of it and water it, and then you certainly don't want to just keep staying out in there. So I'm looking forward to some times in the garden where I can just stay out in it and totally enjoy it. I'm hoping I get some of that time. There's not a lot of stuff in the back that I will try to bring in. Most of the things in the back are either perennials or annuals that come back from seed. However, of course, there is some, like the beautiful coleus, but I'll just take a clipping or several clippings of this and try to save it through the window. Save it in a glass in the window through the winter. That will be the plan for that, and I hope that will work, because it'll be nice to have all these colors back in the fall, in the spring. But, that doesn't always work for me either, but lots of times it does. This is some pink Moly grass. It was gleaming in the sunlight a little earlier. I don't know if there's enough sunlight left there for you to see how pretty it can be. And of course, this is a hibiscus, and I will try to bring it in, although I don't have a lot of luck with these making it through the winter either, but I just have to try. I have a pretty bloom on it right here, and then I'm going to turn this around so you can see I do have a actual bloom on it too, not just a bud. And here is where I put my variegated Swedish ivy, and I just put it in this pot, And I'm hoping that it will kind of root in good here before I take it inside, which it should have time to do that. And I just did this day before yesterday, so it's still got that limp, a little wilty look to it, but you can tell it's also thinking about picking up and going, and I think it will. Now once it gets in my home, I don't know, that's a whole nother story. I have never been able to keep this through the winter, and I know I've seen it in people's homes looking gorgeous, flowing down like the length of from the floor to the ceiling, just beautiful. And I would love to just be able to save it and be able to bring it back out next spring. And of course this little plant stand did look totally bare because everything was off of it, but I just picked up some of the others off the ground where they weren't being seen very well anyway, and now they're like taking center stage up here and looking good. So it's fine. This still looks terrible. I've got to still trim this back some, and I think it could look really good again, and right now it looks really pitiful. But that's another day. Oh, look what I'm seeing. I just now noticed these. I did notice they were up like that, but I didn't notice that they had, I didn't even notice them when they were like this, and now they're open. So this is a pretty little plant too. This is one of the surprise lilies in red. And I took a few things off of this one too, at least one, maybe two. So I had to move some stuff over here, but it's looking fine too. And oh look, we had a pretty little cosmos to come out. But do you, oh yes, there it is. I was going to say, do you see those spots on it? It looks like a cucumber beetle had gotten to it, and it sure enough has. Pardon me for a minute while I kill this thing, because I'm not going to let it live. And I'm going to spray for them as soon as I can, because I don't want all my plants to look like this and worse, and they will if the cucumber beetles aren't destroyed. This right here coming up, the fall crocus. I still want to get some of this variegated dew plant or ice plant and try to save it, which is another one I have no luck with. I'm definitely going to try that in a clay pot, and hopefully it will drain, and I'll put it in the cactus soil, which also works great for succulents. So I've heard, and I believe it. I just know that I still struggle with it, but I'm going to keep trying. This dahlia was so beautiful. I think and I hope that I have pictures of it for you besides this one, because it is starting to become a little bit ratty, but it's still pretty. I'm going to pull it over here where I can check it for those cucumber beetles too, because they love the dahlias, they love the zinnias, they love the petunias. There may not be anything they don't love, but I know they love those, and the mums. And these little pots that I had decided I would like to put sedum in so that they'll have a better chance of looking nice all summer long, even though of course it won't have this pretty little fluffy bloom most of the time, but in the fall it will. And I did just go ahead, these do not have a root, they were only put in there last night, so but they look good, and even if they don't make their root, they're going to look good for this fall. But I'm hoping and believing that they may just go ahead and put a little root down, and I'll have these ready to go next spring, and then they'll be pretty next fall. And I can go ahead and fill it out with other little things like this pretty alyssum and this beautiful ursine, or Irsine. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. And of course the pretty diamond frost euphorbia. And I did that to several pots. Of course, I already had some sedum in this pot, and it was a little bare here in front, so I did add another little piece, and I think this will be pretty. And right now, I just am loving this pretty creamsicle profusion zinnia, and this is the double. I think this is the double. Yes, this is the double creamsicle zinnia. The profusion zinnia. I love this, and it looks great with the sedum on the other side. I did not put any in this little pot or in this one. Several of them that I did not put some in, but more that I did. Just go ahead and put some sedum in. This, of course, is the Autumn Joy sedum in this pot. It needed something anyway, and it just looks good just like this. And hopefully this will make a root and stay in there through the winter, but I know it may not. But I also know that it may, and I'm hoping it will. And I did go ahead and put a little in this pot too, because I'm thinking if I can go ahead and get the roots started, that'll give me just that much of a head start for next spring and summer's garden. Fall to me is a really good time to go ahead and move things around if you want to, because in the spring for me I'm usually so busy with just the new stuff and the annuals and just cleaning out the garden. Oh my goodness, that's the worst job of all. But once it gets cleaned out and I get started going again, I do enjoy doing all this while the weather is nice. But you know, in the summer it's just hard. It's very hard on an older person to do this. I'm pretty sure it's hard on a younger person. Some of you can let me know. I didn't put any sedum in this little pot either. I just love this beautiful coleus in here. It has looked so good this year. I wouldn't mind having that in there every year. But it is harder to keep this wet enough and cared for enough, whereas a sedum you can pretty much plant it in there, give it a little water, and sometimes even in the ground with God's water is sometimes enough. I'm going to go over here and get this beautiful castor bean for you just because it's there. How pretty is that? Look at those bright red seeds. Although I did get one, that one there in the center is trying to dry up and drop seed, and I don't want that. I've got to remember to get out there and get that off before it drops seed everywhere and makes me a challenge. I hate that word, challenge. I much prefer opportunity, but it would not be an opportunity to get to pull all these up. That's an opportunity I hope to miss. And I did put some little starts, and I don't know if you can tell, but yes, there you can tell that one. And I'm hoping that those will work. I don't know if they will. I usually just put the stem in there, and I know that it will go ahead, or I've had it too, so I know that it can go ahead and make a, let me see right here in the middle, you can see that. And I hope this may possibly be my thunderstorm sedum, which is a beautiful purple, but I'm not sure that that's what it is. It's the only one I could find of it if I do have it, and it is evidently one that I tried to start and it did make it. I didn't even realize I had this one until just a few days ago, but when I did realize I did, I went ahead and took some of the leaves off too, so that I could have some more than just one little stem going, if they will grow a stem and a plant for me. And this little sedum, of course, is already losing its color, but it's the beautiful brilliant pink. This pretty little sedum, isn't that pretty? That bloom on it. And I hope that it will just look gorgeous and fill this whole pot out next next summer, and then when the weather is not so bad, I can go ahead and put some little coleus clippings in there with it to just fill it out and make it have more color and look even more beautiful. At least that's the plan. And I didn't do anything more to this little pot either. I actually like it now that I've got her setting up there higher. I didn't really like this before, and I thought maybe it's because I didn't pick the right colors for it, but now I'm beginning to feel like she just needed to be sitting up there where she could be a bigger and better part of this little arrangement. In this little pot, I tried a salvia, which promptly turned brown and died, and I tried a Veronica, which did the same thing, although it did put down some seed, so I'm not sure, but maybe it'll come up in this little pot from seed, which would just be great. And so I actually did go ahead and put a couple of little sedum pieces in here. I think these may be some more of that pretty thundercloud sedum, so I'm hoping they will make it, but I know they may not. It's just, to me, it's always worth a try. Look at this little lamb. It's got some of the tall phlox that has leaned over there, and then it also has the pretty mums beginning to open. Please like and subscribe to the channel.